Hey everybody, and welcome to a very special event. I'm going to be your host for this. Hey everybody, and welcome to a very special event. The doubling of the voice. Again, professionalism out the ass. But in any case, I'm Northernlion. We're going to be doing a Binding of Isaac Rebirth Q&A with developer Edmund McMillen, who has joined me.
Hello, I'm here.
And we will be joined by my esteemed co-host, esteemed Isaac min-max high-level analytic ubermensch of the Binding of Isaac, bisnap.
That's me.
Cool. So we're going to be, just to give you guys kind of a rundown for how things are going to go here. By the way, this is being streamed live over at twitch.tv/northernlion as well as twitch.tv/bisnap if you want to watch either of those perspectives. We're going to start with some really general questions about what the Binding of Isaac Rebirth actually is, and then we're going to get down into some more specifics and nitty-gritty, and Edmund has told me that he is an open book, so we're going to be asking him several questions, maybe not even about Isaac, maybe just personal questions, you know, related to his thoughts on basically any issue that you can think of, but probably hewing mostly to that. So why don't we start with just an easy one? What is the Binding of Isaac Rebirth?
The Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
You don't have to start it with a sigh like that.
Well, I did a stretch. You couldn't see it. It was
I thought it was like discouraged already.
Already off to a bad start. The Binding of Isaac Rebirth is a remake plus expansion, kind of re-envisioning of the original Binding of Isaac plus Wrath of the Lamb expansion. That is going to be on PlayStation 4, Vita, and Steam. It's all being handled by Nicholas, which they did like 20 different Cave Story games.
Yeah.
And then V, and they're working on a bunch of cool stuff now too. But they're handling everything. So since it's their investment, we're basically gonna try out other platforms as well, possibly. So we'll see. We'll cross those bridges when we come to them. But
cool.
There's talk about the possibility of like an iPad type version, which I'm not sure will work well. But if it works well enough and people want it, it's their investment. So willing to say, hey, whatever.
Yeah, we might talk more about platforms as we get a little bit later, because bisnap and I did a kind of a Reddit thread to be like, hey, submit your questions, and a lot of the questions did relate to kind of distribution of the game, but I think we'll get to that a little bit later. I know people are curious about it, but why don't you just explain kind of the impetus behind, you know, remaking the game, because for a lot of people when they first hear about it, they're like, well, The Binding of Isaac just came out like 2 years ago. Why is there going to be a remake of this? So
there's going to be a remake because I wanted to do more with the game, but I can't due to limitations when it comes to Flash. The game was honestly never really even planned to release in the way that it did. It was just going to be a little experiment, a little Flash game that I was doing for fun, to relax. Just something that I wanted to do for myself, and I mostly wanted to play around with randomly generated roguelike type elements, and it turned out that the limitations in Flash from a good, probably like the second month of development really started showing up, and it was like, oh god, what are we going to do? It runs so poorly, and all this, and then we started getting crashing, like crashing of the actual FLAs, getting overloaded and corrupted, and once it was finished and we were able to barely squeeze out Wrath of the Lamb. Wrath of the Lamb almost did not come out. That was the reason why it took 3 months to make Isaac, and it took 6+ months to make the expansion, and most of those months were literally spent fixing major bugs and trying to recover corrupted FLA files.
Yeah.
I wanted to do another expansion. I wanted to add more to Wrath of the Lamb, but it just didn't happen. We had to kind of cut it short, and which is why it does feel lopsided. Like it doesn't make any sense design-wise why there would be a split and then only one of those directions would continue and the other direction wouldn't. So yeah, with remaking the game, it was kind of like there is such a fan base. It's still astounding. I don't understand why you guys are still playing this game, but but I do like the game, and there's a part of me that's like, I want to make the game that I kind of set out to make originally, without limitations and stuff, and remaking it is taking the best of what Binding of Isaac is now and turning it and tuning it into something I could be more proud of and I could stand by a little bit more when it comes to the actual design of the game.
Cool. I know when we talked earlier, this has kind of been like, the way I understand it, Isaac was almost like your post-Super Meat Boy vacation or sabbatical, and it's now kind of snowballed out of control into this like unwieldy monster that just keeps being popular. So is it fair to say that probably Rebirth is going to be the last of Isaac we'll see for a while?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not really a fan of, like we always talked about, how I never wanted to make another like a sequel to Meat Boy and stuff. I get frustrated and bored easy with certain things. Like, well, I mean, this is the furthest thing away from Super Meat Boy you can get, and Eugenics is the furthest thing away from anything else as well. And I like to challenge myself as a designer, because what I get out of this is mostly growth when it comes to me as a designer. I get to try new genres that I find interesting and try to do new things with those genres. And I get bored easily, and I don't like rehashing the same thing, which is another reason why I'm not doing everything on the remake. Like, I'm the designer. Somebody else is doing the art and everything else, and the programming and so on. I'm just the guy who makes sure everything's exactly as intended. Give them all the design docs that I had previously made and or have designed since, and we just move from there. And that's essentially it. Like, I get to be more hands off with it, which is annoying at times, because I'm pretty anal about that sort of stuff, because I want to just take it and do it myself. But I don't have the ability to do that right now, because I'm full time on Eugenics, and I've got a bunch of other projects coming after that. So it's I don't have any ideas for a Binding of Isaac 2. I have some rough ideas of what I might like to do if we ever did something else, but chances are it would be pretty drastically different even if it did happen.
You know now, like, the headline on the Binding of Isaac subreddit is going to be, Isaac 2 hinted at will be drastically different, Edmund McMillen. Yeah, my life has slowly become this, like, planning out of how many years I think I'm going to live and how many games I believe I can make at the time. There's a lot of stuff that I want to make and is pretty important to me, and sadly Binding of Isaac 2 is not high on that list. But you never know. Like, I feel like I'm almost eating my words when it comes to saying that I never want to do another Super Meat Boy, because I do, and I don't know if it'll be a sequel or if it'll be a side, I don't know what, or a new different game that uses the character, or revisiting Super Meat Boy the game's design and finishing that next. I don't know what it'll be, but there's a fondness there that has come from distance. That I really. The end of Meat Boy development was horrible, but I really loved working on it. And I really loved working on it with Tommy, and there was something really magical about the experience, and I love the characters, and I kind of want to go. I kind of want to go back in, and who knows what'll happen when it comes to Isaac, in 3 or 4 more years. So, I've learned to just, whatever, eat my words. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. It's worked out.
I think it's pretty safe to say that we'll probably still be playing Isaac in 3 or 4 years at this rate.
I don't know. The way it looks. So let's get into some new features that I think everybody is probably interested and curious to hear more about. And this is a question that I will give mostly to Bisnap after I say it here. It's solicited from Reddit, and I just love the username primarily. This is Reddit user Dragon Maballs. That's like Dragon Ball spelling, not like dragon like on the ground, which is, I think, what makes it even better. But he says, well, to preface this a little bit, co-op or some kind of multiplayer has been hinted, and perhaps even like actually explicitly confirmed as part of the Binding of Isaac Rebirth. He asks, how exactly will co-op work? And the reason I'm giving this question to Bisnap is because he asks, will it be like Bisnap's mirror match, which he might have to explain himself. But first, why don't you answer what's co-op going to be like in Rebirth, if you have an answer for that?
Well, the short answer is we haven't experimented with it yet, so I don't know for sure, so I don't want to promise anything that we're not able to do, but I can say what I'd like to do and the kind of things that I would not like to do. There are certain things like I don't think it's realistic to have two Isaacs in the same room at once and it not be completely chaotic and out of control. So that's kind of out of the picture. And one of the things that I want to do is I want it to be a drop-in-play situation where, I don't know, I have some fond memories of different things. I think Secret of Mana was a drop-in one as well, where if my friend came over and hit start, he could drop in and it would be balanced and realistic. I'd like to do something like that, and I have some ideas of what I'd like to do, but I don't want to say anything because I don't want to promise anything if it doesn't work, because we haven't tested it yet. We're not to that point yet. But I mean, that's all I could say. Like, I of course want it to be as fun as possible. I want there to be rewards for doing it. Like if you're able to beat the game with another player involved, I would like that. But I would like it to be realistically balanced and fun for both people. It's going to be semi-difficult, but I think it's doable. I have some ideas, and I'm sure other people out there who are design-minded can come up with similar ideas that I have as well. But yeah, that's basically it. It's something that I definitely wanted, because there's been many times where when Danielle had started playing, she was like our #1 tester, got incredibly good. There were times where I wish I could pop in and help, because it would be fun. There's a certain coolness about drop-in co-op with your friends. But another, of course, is that it will definitely not be online co-op, because that would add so much development time to the game. It would be insane.
Yeah. Well, cool. Bisnap, why don't you explain what you do in your mirror match series and why so many people are interested in that? And that might give us a convenient segue to talk about the idea of seeded runs in the Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
Right, absolutely. So in Mirror Match, this is a series I do where I always have a guest on for it, and basically we take a user-created mod that allows us to do seeded runs in the normal Isaac, which, by the way, how do you feel about mods and things? Are you totally cool with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, whatever I mean, I wish, like I said, I wish I could give more to the community, and if mods are doing it, then that's totally fine. Like, the only issue I would have with mods is that I would hate it if somebody bought the game and then straight modded it, because then they missed the whole experience that I went on my way to create. But I can't say that I care that much. Like, you got to do what you got to do. It's your fucking life, and if it's fun for you to do and that's what you want, then go for it. I have no issue with it. I think it's really cool that people are making them. I've thought about even supporting them in Steam, but I just don't know. I don't want to put something in there that, if I could somehow put it in that it unlocked after you've beaten the game or whatever percent of the game, then I would totally put it in as a reward. It's something I think is cool. I mean, anything creative that people expand on, like our mod, I think is pretty damn neat. Okay, so that's good. And with Mirror Match, basically we take this mod, and that has seeded runs, and we both just play the same run and see how differently things go. So you're talking about adding seeded runs in Rebirth, and are they going to be basically just your normal seed, everything's going to be the same, or is it going to be weird because, like, in Isaac there are things like special items that influence other item spawns, so you just have some divergence naturally when looking at that? How's that going to work? What I assume we will do with seeded runs is a seeded run where the basic outline of the room sets, as well as the bosses for the most part, will always be the same. Like, of course, if, like you said, if somebody picked up the Book of Revelations in a seeded run and then spawned a horseman, then things would totally branch. But that's, I think, totally fine. And that's basically it. Like, I just want the room layout to be as fair as possible, but still, of course, have some amount of random when it comes to maybe room drops and stuff like that, because part of the beauty of Isaac is the luck. You never know. But I want it to be less lucky. I do cringe at certain. I see people racing and stuff, which is awesome, but then it's just like one person could just get really fucking lucky, and it's a breeze. So I think find a way to make it so, for the most part, things are the same, but they would naturally and organically branch away from each other if certain combinations, certain items are used, and things were done in certain ways, because that's how it would naturally work.
Right. So basically, like, same floors and same items, but different things like drops.
Yeah.
So basically the same way it works in, like, seeded runs in Spider Mod right now, right?
Pretty much. Although Spider Mod has seeded drops now as well, actually.
Oh, cool. And we should note, actually, the creator of Spider Mod has the most upvoted comments in that Reddit thread. So there's several very specific questions related to modding that we might have a chance to get to later, but I'm sure he's happy to hear that, obviously, he has your blessing.
The Spider Mod guy should probably contact Tyrone at Nicholas and maybe get a job.
There you go. Making dreams happen live.
Like, I want nothing more than the people who are doing all the art for the game right now, and as well as the programmer involved, are all fans of Isaac. Some of them have 400 plus hours. It would be great if someone who knew as much as you guys or anything that had programming skill could also help out. It would help us immensely, and I know that Tyrone is looking for more programmers. So yeah, you should. It would be great. I mean, I'm all for it. Like, I'm also all for hearing ideas, Like, I do reach out to the community. The sad thing is there are a lot of people that don't necessarily have the skills to pay the bills when it comes to their ideas, and they just throw out really horrible ideas, and then it just gets overwhelmingly horrible. Mm-hmm. Or they're just things that already exist in the game. That's the most common. It's like, can you put an item in the game that's exactly like this item that is already in the game? Like, all right. But yeah, no, I would recommend that because I want Rebirth to really be fanfare. Like, the reason we're doing this is for the community that exists. This is the game that the community wants, and and I was actually talking to you, Ryan, about this when we had that other phone call. But I started this game. Well, I had a very specific idea that I wanted to do, and it turned out, due to limitations, I wasn't necessarily able to do that. And the things I'm talking about was the game is pretty luck-based, and there's a lot of things that people really love about the game that I'm like, ooh, I hate that design. Like, I'm a rigid person when it comes to design, and I like things to be less lucky and more rigid. But the fact of the matter is, I believe that a great majority of people who play Isaac play it for the random, play it for the lottery win. That's the beauty of the game, and I've come to understand that. And I've also come to understand other things that people really love about the game that I don't necessarily like that much, that I'm willing to continue to design the way others want it, because this is no longer my game. It's basically everybody else's game. And when we're making something like this, I'm doing it purely because I want to allow the people that love this game so much to continue to play it and have a new, fresh experience. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I think where everybody else on the team is coming from as well. It's just like, let's just make Isaac better, cooler, more improved, and more exactly what everybody else wants.
Absolutely. I liked what we talked about, and the fact that you brought it up. How, like, Isaac is luck-based, and that's, to some extent, a bad thing, but it's also one of the reasons people keep watching. Like I said in that conversation was, it's almost like, as a viewer or even as a player, you're... like gambling, because your play can be consistent from run to run, but the actual quality of the items you get can have like a really kind of divergent effect on the actual outcome. So I think the seeded runs are going to go a long way towards kind of like neutralizing that luck basedness for like races and then things like Boiler, obviously, in competitive play, or even just people who want to play with some consistency between two people. But also the fact that there's still going to be luck based stuff in it, I think, is something that definitely keeps people coming back for more.
For sure. Yeah, it was something that really early in development, I had sent John Blow a build of the game to just see what he thought, because this was back when I was like, should I get this sponsored? Because I was probably just going to get sponsored.
Yeah.
Get a few grand, and then of course somebody else would own the game, which would suck at this point. But just to kind of get the reactions from different developers whose views I respected, and he wrote me back and said he really liked the game, and he was talking about some of the random stuff that happened, and I cringed, because it was just like, I don't really want it to be a breeze sometimes and really difficult other times. That seems like bad design. And he kind of responded with, no, like, this is the game that Isaac is, and I think this is the game it wants to be. And I didn't fully understand what he was talking about till others kind of basically went the same direction with it. And yeah, I mean, it's one of the beauties of open-ended design, like, I guess improv in design, where you allow yourself not to be so rigid when it comes to certain things, and sometimes bugs become features in a way.
Before we go any further, I just want to point out here that Tyrone Rodriguez from Nicholas is actually in chat asking Spider from Spider-Mon. So if anybody wants to let him know,
looking for Spider,
yeah, that he is actually being like actively recruited in the chat right now, make sure to let him know that he can come here and talk to Tyrone Rodriguez, his Twitch username. You can also find him on Twitter and on maybe on the Nicalis website as well. I'm not totally sure. But in any case, just putting out the PSA there so he's familiar. One of the things I wanted to ask about, I know bisnap has opinions on this as well, and actually you and I talked about it a little bit, Edmund, is what's going to happen with the idea of trinkets and specifically the Polaroid in Rebirth? Because as of right now, obviously the Polaroid, as you hinted at, there's only really like one path that kind of makes sense for high-level play in Isaac. You skip Shoal and you go to the Cathedral and the chest, and you need the Polaroid to make that happen, which kind of makes the rest of the trinkets to a certain extent useless, except in very specific situations. So what are your thoughts on what to do about the Polaroid and trinkets in general with Rebirth?
Well, I'll start with defending my initial design. So initially, I didn't want the chest to be as accessible as it became. And due to a bug, it became accessible. So what the deal was is the percentage chance of the Polaroid dropping. It was supposed to be really rare. It was supposed to be if you didn't take any damage from Mom and a certain percentage chance, like if you didn't take any damage at all from her floor or her, it was 100% chance that thing was going to drop.
Okay.
And then I think it might have been like a less of a chance if you only 100%ed her. I can't remember what the percentage was then, but that was the initial design. Like it was going to be something that I had hoped people wouldn't even find for a while, because like what are the chances someone's trying to go for like a no damage run on Mom or whatever else, or just happen to not get hit. It was supposed to be a buried secret, and because of a bug, it always spawned, and from the beginning. And I was like, ah, shit. But once everybody saw it, it was like, what do I do now? And we only had, it took us like a week to update that part. But when we finally did, we were just like, fuck it. Like, it's everybody's seen it already. Mm-hmm. They already know about the chest. Let's just leave it as is and not worry about it. So originally it wasn't going to be a trinket that you saw all the time, so it made more sense to do it that way. But of course, in Rebirth, I want to kind of remove it as a trinket and make it just. I don't even know if it's going to be there at all how it was in the original. I'm not 100% sure exactly what we're going to do, but it might be something as simple as an up or down type staircase if you've unlocked the Polaroid at that point in time. But no, I understand design-wise that it makes it so like all your other trinkets are useless at that point because you have to hold the Polaroid.
This is probably too specific at this point in time, but when you say you're not sure if that mechanic will be in Rebirth, do you mean like you're not sure if there will be an item that unlocks a different kind of track, or you're not sure if the Polaroid will be that item, or if there's not going to be like a Polaroid trinket at all? There
won't be a Polaroid trinket that you need to get anywhere with.
Okay.
It just doesn't seem like a good way to do it. And like I said, like it seemed like a good way to do it back when I had originally thought that no one would see it, and it would be a really rare thing that people brag about, like the I Am Air room or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's just I've already ruined this surprise. Like it's there's no reason to go back. So yeah, I think it'd be more along the lines of On Mom's Heart if you've put all the pieces together, or if we end up even doing that there's a way up and a way down that open.
Like on, again, the hard-hitting questions here, but like after the floor you will have a choice, or it'll just be like an either or, like either an up or down?
You will there will be both, and you will choose to go up or down.
Okay.
It will be an open split where you can choose which way you want to go. I don't want to like force somebody, if they've already beaten the Cathedral X amount of times with X amount of, if you're going for the item that Eve unlocks when you beat Isaac in the Cathedral or whatever, I don't want you to only have that option or only go to hell. Like, it doesn't seem fair. So yeah, when you unlock the Cathedral, it'll be reworked, basically.
Yeah,
it'll be reworked and worked in a fair way.
Cool. I was just going to ask bisnap if you have like a thought or a question on that, because I know when initially I was like, if it's an either or, like it's maybe luck based or it's a dice roll or something, whether you go up or down, my guess would be that you would feel a certain way about that. I was wondering if you wanted to express that.
Well, I think that really, as long as you have the option, like with there being an extra floor after shoal or like an extra ending basically, and both being viable, I think it's totally cool either way. So like as long as we have the option.
Yeah, it seems to be the most fair and realistic design for the game, and how I would have done it if I could go back and fix it. But yeah, since there's more of a reason to go down, and then you gotta think too, like everybody playing from the beginning again. You play with each character to unlock all these different items. You see everybody playing now, and everybody just plays with Isaac and the damn dice, which is a problem in itself that I've got to figure out how to get past. But I want there to be a reward for every little achievement. Like if you beat Satan with XYZ, you should get a reward that expands the game slightly. That's what makes Isaac kind of unique to a lot of other games, is the unlock system, and how when you're rewarded not just with achievements but also with stuff that expands your experience. Mm-hmm. And I want to push that as much as possible. So it would be unfair if I just said, nope, you're only going this direction, so you don't get your reward.
Right, absolutely.
I think one thing we've kind of brought up here, especially when you're talking about the unlocking system, is that our questions are kind of coming from this perspective of people who have spent hundreds or maybe even thousands of hours with the game. And this is not necessarily the representative of the vast majority of players, nor is it necessarily representative of what our experience will be when we first start playing Rebirth, because like you said, there's so much stuff to unlock. But in the interest of completely negating literally what I just said, I want to get into some possibilities for high-level play. So I think bisnap is going to have a lot of opportunity to dig into some questions here. The question that came from Reddit, and I'll look quickly to see if I can figure out who wrote this. But if not, a lot of people said exactly the same thing. But it was basically, the question in general is, will breaking the game still be possible? And perhaps to add a little bit more meat to that conversation, what kind of changes are you making that might affect breaking the game, and where will those kind of seams still be, if you can actually like see them yourself already?
I believe... Okay, so there's the definition of breaking the game. Breaking the game as far as like completely exploiting the pools of items and stuff like that, I believe will still be in, because of the way we're porting things, kind of, because it's a semi-port, semi-remake type situation. So I believe those will be there, and I kind of like it, because I kind of like seeing it. Of course, I didn't know about these pools. I didn't know how Florian wrote the code. I'm not a programmer. He improvised and designed around the designs I threw at him. Like, it's like, okay, we've got all these, and these only show up here, and these only show up there, and he designed around that. So I kind of like the idea of like, okay, we'll pick up that item and then maybe re-roll and pick up this item, so it lowers the chance of that appearing. I still like that, so I don't think that's changing. When it comes to other like, totally insane combos, like bringing certain items in a certain room so it can spawn, a shitload of Eternal Hearts, I assume that would all stay as well, because I kind of like that too. Like, I like that people found this stuff. It kind of makes the game more magical. But the cool thing about the whole thing is the fact that with 120 new items, with a lot of different new possibilities, there's going to be a shitload more combinations and more ways to exploit, and I'm sure people will find other ways to break the game, in quotes. But we want to avoid anything that actually does break the game. Yeah, stop playing. So
right, one of the big features is that we crash it.
But yeah, no, I as everybody else does. Like, there's a reason why if somebody tweets at me like, "You got to see this crazy run," he breaks the game. He's not saying, "You idiot, you're a horrible designer." He's saying, "This looks cool." Like, this was awesome. Like, his head inverted, and this happened, and this happened, and it's like, oh, that is cool. Like, I'm down with that. It makes the game feel alive. It makes the game feel like it's a weird organic thing, and people keep discovering things that start out as urban legends, and that's kind of what I tried to push, even in the terms of the game's design, like having these really rare occurrences that happen that I remember when Wrath of the Lamb came out, there were certain things that I hid in it, and I'd be watching the wiki and refreshing, and they would start out as rumors like, the best one was the glitch, the pony glitch, where Isaac would appear on a horse and float around the room. And like that was just a bug, but people grabbed onto that, and it became like a little urban legend within the game. And I think that's pretty neat, and I'd like to continue that design-wise, as well as allowing the game to break in all the best ways.
I remember this was either when Vanilla Isaac came out or when the Halloween update came out. There was a room that had torches that spawned in kind of the same pattern as the face on the Book of Belial, and my comments for like 2 days were like, dude, you gotta get the Book of Belial and then use the Book of Belial on the room with the torches like that, and it'll like, do something. I just know that it'll do something. And of course, you know, it didn't, but it was kind of cool for like 2 days to be on this quest of like, oh man, this could be, like I could be one of the first people to actually do this. Yeah,
and I heard about that rumor, and I heard about a bunch of weird rumors, and I always thought it was really cool, and I hope to be able to do some cool little things here and there with stuff once we get further in development and do some little specific item combinations, which sadly, when you say something like that, which means that there's just going to be some programmers out there that ruin the fun for everybody.
Well, and of course, you know, with a game that has such a huge fan base like this, you're dealing with like an extremely large base of people that will, I assume, unless they're extremely well hidden, like figure it out pretty darn quickly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on your perspective. But
I'd like to try harder. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I won't. You programmers that break apart the game and look at the code. Maybe it'll just be a waste of your time, and you'll look so foolish when you dig around in there.
So,
idiots.
I have almost like a question to throw to both of you guys, both Bisnap and Edmund here, because I was just thinking, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Bisnap, but the way that you break the game, as far as I understand it, as someone who has not done it by way of the D20 and the Nun Sabbat and the Scapular, is basically that you tap the game out in terms of the amount of items in the pool, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so the first part of the question, I guess, for Edmund is, what can we expect as like an item count in Rebirth, if you have any idea of what, you know, even a perspective number with that would be? And
well, I have 120 items in my design doc, and I know they're all possible, and I'm pretty damn pleased with a lot of them because I designed around the coolest features in Isaac's, which is like stacking items and items that manipulate and do stuff with your tiers, which I think is some of the coolest, one of the cooler features in the game. Because there's stuff I didn't even realize. Like, I didn't realize that if you had Wiggle Worm and you threw Bob's head, it would wiggle. Like, that was just something that happened.
Yeah.
That was how the code was written. And discovering that for the first time was really awesome. There's some also other cool combinations that I've seen of, like, GIFs of people having like the mirror and the wiggle worm and like quad shot, and it's all like coming and going in like these weird bizarre figure eights happening. So I want to push that sort of stuff too. But yeah, I mean, essentially tack on another 120 items to the existing item base, and we'll probably end up going further when we add more content and we're like, okay, well, if we're adding all these things, well, we have to have rewards, so we have to have more items.
And then my follow-up question after hearing that for BizSnap would be like, how do you think that changes just mathematically, like the prospect of breaking the game? Like, I know as is right now, some of your runs where you break the game come to like over 2 hours long. So if you, let's just say, added like another 50% or even doubled the amount of items in the game, how would that change things from your perspective?
I think breaking the game is totally going to be insanely long, but this does pose a question naturally where it's like, with the whole ghost mechanic that we don't know the details of exactly, is that going to be more an incentive to go quickly, or is it actually going to be a punishment for going slowly? Because if it's a punishment for going slowly, breaking the game might become impossible to get all these things that take like an hour to set up or what have you. And then with all the items, of course, it's just even harder and more luck-based if you only have a limited time to do it. So I think that that's kind of the big determinant here, actually.
Well, what I might do, so the ghost stuff, which is very in quotes because it has nothing to do with a ghost and is nothing like something flying through the room and haunting you. I just used that term, and I obviously used it badly, as something that would give you an incentive to not sit there and pour cash into a machine for days, or, you know, just take your sweet time. I don't know exactly how this is going to work yet. There are things that I want to do with it. Originally, I thought what I would do would make it so, and this is very rough, and again, I'll state this so people don't go crazy about it. This is not something that is definitely happening. This is something that I would like to try out. We're not to that point yet, so I can't. But something along the lines of multiplying number of rooms in a level by a certain amount of time, and then once that time reaches 0, having Mom's leg kind of like randomly spawn into rooms in the middle, and then the doors lock and the guys spawn at random times. Like, I'm not, and this could be exploited as well, because you can, farm certain rooms and stuff like that. So I don't even know yet. Like, I don't know for sure until I test it, until I figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work. But what I'd like to do is actually give more of an incentive for you to rush through the game, as in, like, not saying this is going to happen, but imagine there's a door in the first Mom's room, right? And that door is only open for X amount of minutes. And once you get to that point, and you've gone past that time overall globally in the game, the door closes and you're not able to get whatever's in there. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. It probably is not. I don't know yet. But I want there to be an alternate way to play. And, design-wise, you always try to explore your mechanics and see, like, what resources do I have here? And one of the resources that I feel like people have and don't care about is time. And I would like to use that resource in a way to branch or expand some aspect of the game. But I don't know what that is yet. So this is where I am design-wise in my head at the current state of the game. And I will explore it more when I get to it.
Well, I do actually like the sound of it so far, with not punishing people for min-maxing, basically, but just giving an opportunity if you're trying to play really quickly or whatever, and just to kind of incentivize another play style as an option rather than kind of a requirement.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
One thing I'm a little bit concerned about, maybe not concerned because it's not actually a huge problem in the current version of the game, but it kind of relates in that there are some rooms or situations where it's not so much about your skill as it is about either what items you have or how much health you have left to take damage with. Are things like that going to kind of be removed or minimized even more than they are now?
Oh yeah, there's certain rooms in the game that are unfair because in testing I wasn't able to generate those rooms in certain situations. There were some early ones too. Like there was originally an item that was supposed to be more like Mom's knife but didn't shoot. And I realized quickly that there are rooms where you can't reach certain guys with your items, and your range gets so small you can't hit them, and then you can't beat the game. So there's certain things like that I tried to avoid, but not everything's avoidable. And there's certain bosses in the game, like the later, that feel pretty ham-fisted. Because I originally wanted Isaac's fight to be more bullet hell. And we tried that, and it lagged the game so terribly that we're like, fuck it. What do we do? Just maybe make them spawn it every once in a while, and how do we make it harder? And it was kind of artificially harder, and I don't like the Isaac fight. So those will be different. Those will change, and other aspects of the game that I feel are a bit lacking or a bit unfair or a bit too easy. Or a bit of a walk in the park are going to change and be rebalanced, and that's the ability that I have at this point with being able to remake the game.
Cool. You actually took the question right out of my head, because when you said rooms that might require a little bit more health than other rooms, or might be about brute forcing, a lot of people in the chat immediately brought up the late game boss fight. So it's cool to hear that those are going to change, and I think that question was kind of pre-answered. Elucidator on Reddit has asked the question, what kind of challenges can we expect to come in Rebirth? Like the challenges that are included along in Wrath of the Lamb, are those going to be coming back, or are there going to be more of them, or are they going to be modified, if you know?
I want to do a ton more. There's, like, I'd like to do an all-champion run, and, just stuff like that. There's just so many no-brainer challenges that I wanted to do, with the expansion that couldn't really do. But I will be able to do it now. And those are easy. Those are, you can spider mod most of those, but the key to it is having a reward at the end of the experience. And I think that will be more in depth, because that means making an item per challenge that you win when you do finish it. So, yeah, for sure, I like the challenge editions, because it gave you like new characters to kind of play with.
One of the things you talked about a little bit last time we talked is that there will be some rebalancing of items done. So I was wondering if you had a particular example of that, or alternatively, what we could do if you're comfortable is bisnap and I could alternate throwing out some items that might be kind of hot button items for rebalancing within the eyes of community, and you could tell us.
Oh yeah. Do that one, because then I'll just write down stuff so I remember.
All right, and in the chat, feel free to shout some out as well, so we can get some more impetus. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to say
a lot of items though, so don't go too crazy.
Right, we'll cap it at 100.
Let's hit the key items.
All right, I would say for me, number one is probably blue candle.
The item that everybody complained about being stupid and worthless in the beginning when I made it, and now it's so great. I like the blue candle. I think it's. You guys think it's too nuts?
I think
it's so good.
It's really, really strong because you can use it multiple times on a room. Like many times.
One thing about it is that, at least on my videos, every time I take it, my commenters get really bad and I get a lot of dislikes.
Yeah.
So
the only
maybe
reason
make it a little less broken.
There's only two situations where I won't take blue candle. One of them is if I have the D6 and I want to make a more entertaining run by being able to reroll later and add some more uncertainty to it. And the other one is if I have 0 health and my spacebar item gives me Spirit Hearts, then I'll be like, I can't really take it right now or I'll probably die. Otherwise, it's 98% I want to take it.
So on my side of things, blue candle, the only edit that I had on my list was that it was going to be in the new high-priced item bracket in the store.
Okay.
And also to take into account that 120 new items means a much rarer chance of a rare item like that appearing in the store if you get it.
That's a good point.
Make it much less common. But I can pad the time of the refresh if needed.
Cool. That's
right.
not, you know better than I do. I'm assuming anyway. The kind of intuitive thing that I always thought is either buff some items up to its level, so that maybe the bean you could use multiple times per room, or Tammy's head you could use multiple times. Lemon mishap multiple times per room, or alternatively make either it charge a lot slower for blue candle or only once per room.
Well, you just named about 1 million different items.
I know, basically. Yeah, it's throughout 1,000.
Did you want to go down? Did you want to go down the list? Or
sorry. Anyway, bisnap, another item you might suggest.
Okay. Well, on the bad spectrum, something like lemon mishap.
Yeah, the lemon mishap is the joke of the game, right? And it kind of was in the beginning. It kind of was the shit item. I never thought it was going to be that good. But I do want to extend its reach and let it stay around for longer. I think lemon mishap needs to stay because it is what it is. It's that shit item. But I'd like to make it better, and I do think just extending the time it stays and its actual range just by a little bit, and with a refresh of one room, I don't see how that is a bad item, especially when there are a ton more items in the game. If you just don't have another item to switch out for it, it's a good item to keep till the end. if you don't find anything else.
I kind of agree with that. I think minor tweaks to lemon mishap could raise it from not very useful at all, unless there's no other options, to something that maybe has some viability.
Yeah, it's just one of those items that is just the universal crappy item, making just a little bit better and keeping the joke. I don't see anything wrong with that.
I might, again, these are not suggestions, these are more just curiosities. Feel free to tell us, shove it, basically. If we throw out the suggestion, you're that item's already perfect in my mind. But I was thinking raw shot speed upgrades, Cat of Nine Tails.
Oh yeah, the shot speed stuff didn't go as planned, which could have been a miscommunication or programming error. I'd like shot speed to have more relevance in Rebirth, and hopefully that'll show a little bit more. Because like I was hoping it would be like instant, like bam, right, hit right away, and I don't know. But yeah, definitely I think overall like shot speed was just kind of like attacked on. I wanted to do another kind of stat for tiers that was a basic stat that things could buff, like range and stuff like that too. And even range I feel like didn't have the relevance that it should, but will have more relevance as is in Rebirth, so that'll work.
I have a feeling you're hinting at something, and that is a question that was asked on Reddit that I'll bring up.
Okay.
Near the end, or closer to the end, anyway. Bisnap, why don't you do another one?
Okay. One item that I'm actually a little curious about, besides that it's like one of my favorites and one of everyone's favorites, besides to watch, is Brimstone. There was a recent glitch discovered with it where you can shoot it lots more times at once, and that's really divisive, kind of. I want it to stay personally, but I'd understand if it didn't, and I'd understand if there's something totally different about the item as well.
Well, of course you want it to stay. It's like nearly named after you, sort of.
Well, yeah, that's part of it.
Sadly, that's something I think will get fixed because it obviously was a big-time error and doesn't require that much skill to do. And I don't see Brimstone changing much. It's just one of those items.
Cool.
The lasers look really cool. Those were just in the latest build, and testing them out, they look pretty, and they really stretch across the screen this time.
What about Polyphemus, which is another one that comes up all the time?
That one just needs to be more rare. When the expansion came out, I believe it was actually crazy common for some odd reason.
Yeah.
It's just one of the weird things. Like you gotta, Florian had a lot on his plate, and it's really hard to juggle all these things and how they work internally. And there was stuff that wasn't brought to my attention until other people picked it apart and kind of like posted the code and said, "Hey, this is really weird. Luck actually makes you more lucky like when you get negative luck and like all this weird shit." But I like that item as is. I think that it will be rare with more items, and maybe I don't know what its rarity actually is currently, but it could afford to be a bit more rare.
Cool.
All right, then.
I'm having fun with this. If you have more, continue to throw some at. Maybe after yours, we'll do one more each.
Okay. Well, one item. I mean, this one's kind of obvious, but like best friend can straight up kill you for no good reason, and that's something that's like an obvious fix. But it's also kind of bad as is, and could go for some more stuff. I don't know. That's just a thought.
And that oh my god, is best friend the dummy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, God. Okay, good. Good thing I know my game. Yeah, I haven't put much thought into best friend, and I didn't experiment with it enough to really do much. But I mean, I guess we could make it so it doesn't kill you.
That's a good start.
when it blows up. But yeah, definitely not one that I even thought twice about. It's just one of those really odd items that does odd things. But yeah, it shouldn't probably kill you.
Cool.
Well, same with like the TNT stuff strapped to your body when you explode. Does it do?
No, I want you to keep the invincibility for that one, please.
What was that?
Oh, Kamikaze, I want it to stay with the ability to use it for free. I like that a lot.
No, of course. But I can't remember how. Does it do half damage or full?
It takes one hard, doesn't it?
Okay, but if you're using it when you're walking into a wall, it does nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I like that.
Change. That might change. But yeah, if it does full, it might. I'd like that item to be better. That was one of the first items that I designed, and I thought it had a really cool mechanic to it. And until I realized that people weren't really using it as much as I was using it when I was testing, and because it was doing so much damage, and I think it might be a little more interesting as a usable item if it did less. But you never know.
What about this? Might be less of an issue because it's already pretty rare, and as you mentioned, with flooding a bunch more items into the game, it'll be even more rare. But what about the fetus items? Sorry, fetus in a jar and epic fetus that shoot the bombs and fire the.
Yeah, those will just be more rare, and maybe we'll pop them in places like the unlock for epic fetus might be in a harder to reach place, a bigger reward.
All right, cool, and choose wisely, Bisnap. One more here.
I don't have a good item so much as maybe. I mean, I know you hinted at it, but the luck stat being less useless, it does literally two things right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's broken. It's broken. Yeah. I hope that luck will be more relevant in the remake, and I'm sure we will balance it correctly this time.
Okay, and actually, I want to, since we're segueing after this right away, anyway, I want to kind of go into some stats and stuff. Like, it looks like Faith was supposed to be a stat, but it doesn't do anything right now. Is that going to be something that actually appears in Rebirth?
I'm trying to remember the Faith stat. I believe
what I think it was supposed to do is that if you get more Faith items, it would help you get God rooms.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So that it didn't do anything, but don't faith-based or like godly items still raise the chance?
I'm pretty sure they don't.
Okay, so that was planned and didn't happen. I don't know if there actually will be a stat there, or simply just having one of the items with you or on you will just raise the possibility of the angel room appearing.
Okay, and
but
then
that's all the faith stuff was going to be used for.
Okay, and so
because evil items do, like they should. Yeah, evil items still raise the chance of the devil room appearing and killing.
Yeah, actually, they make it impossible for the angel to appear at all.
Yeah, there you go.
So, as far as other stats are concerned, is stat tracking going to be more of a thing? Like both on the pause screen, are those going to be more readable and relevant? And are there going to be like more robust stats like item pickups or enemy kills or anything like that? So two different kinds of stats, but are any of those kinds of things going to be in Rebirth?
I'm not a stat like fan. Like I just don't see the point in showing how many enemies you killed and such. Like I don't know what that does for anybody. And like the reason why I didn't show, your damage is 4.5158 is your damage. Like it just seems too robotic, and I don't know. I just never liked seeing the stats. And I know everybody's broken it apart now and kind of like seen the man behind the curtain. But as a designer, the reason why I put dashes and then did a soft cap at the end was because I didn't want people to see I don't know, it seemed weird to me to be like, oh well, I now have this damage in this range and here's my exact number. It kind of is like a turnoff to me, and it kind of like in a way breaks the fourth wall. Like it shows computer information. I don't like it. I just there's something about it that I'm not a fan of. So I might make the dashes make a little more sense, but I don't like putting numbers like that.
Okay.
The reality is that probably within like 24 hours, someone will have made a mod that'll do it anyway, even if you don't want it to be there. That's
the thing. Like if you really want it, I'm sure somebody will do something. You can have that. But me personally, I'm not going to go out of my way to add that.
Cool. Well, we're sort of talking about balance here. Nobody really posed this question, at least not that I formally saw, but are there going to be any character rebalancing? Because, as of right now, as you mentioned, most people just play Isaac and use the D6, partly because it's really powerful, but also partly because it's really fun. But there is almost like a, maybe not objective, but a nearly objective tier list when it comes to characters. Is any thought been paid to rebalancing them at all, or, altering base stats, or maybe what kind of passives or actives they start with?
Not so much, other than the dice, which I'm probably worrying too much about, because the reality of the situation is that everybody who has the dice right now has been playing for forever.
Yeah.
And that's why they use it exclusively, because they want to break the game. Like, that's what it's used for. They want to really exploit what the game can offer and get as much high probabilities as possible, which is what the dice was there for. So it's why you're rolling it, for odds. That's the joke. But yeah. When it comes to balancing other characters, I know people like to complain about different characters, but the fact of the matter is not all the characters are there to be balanced as much as somewhat of a challenge as well. It's like if I balance anything, what I will do is balance play styles a little bit more. Originally, Samson was going to have the item that made it so he had melee combat, which we could do because of the range issues in certain rooms. And I can't really figure out an answer for it. It sucks that we can't have a real melee character due to the fact that there are rooms, or lots of rooms, that require you to have range. But yeah, I wanted to balance characters in a different way, not a fair way as far as stats go, not a fair way as far as, oh, it's easier or just as easy to play with this character. But I wanted there to be, because the fact of the matter is, you get X items when you beat the game in all these different ways with Eve and Samson and so on. That's an incentive. Like, it might be a little harder to play with these characters, but that's part of the game. Like, that's just the way it goes. Like, I don't look at the design as what do the people who've 100%ed the game and play the game religiously, what characters are they going to like more and what characters are going to be worthless. I look at it as the person who just started the game and they're playing it and they're trying to unlock all these different things and explore what the game has to offer from, you know, a blind standpoint. They're going to have to play with these characters, and they're going to have a challenge ahead of them to do so, and they might have to change the way they play in order to really exploit what these things can do. And that's more interesting to me than just having, oh, you know, Samson's a worthless character because he's not as good as X, Y, Z, Y. Play with him, which makes sense if you've 100% of the game. Like, the reason that you play with him is to get his fucking items, and that's your reward for doing it, and then you never have to play with him again. You know, you're not obligated to do so. It's just a design challenge. It's you know, it's the reason why the blue baby's there originally, but
actually,
a lot of ways
Blue Baby's kind of
like,
amazing.
Yeah, everyone loves Blue Baby
like
now.
Blue Baby more. but the thing is the Blue Baby is so different. Like, it feels different because of the way it makes certain items worthless. It changes the way you play, and that's what I'm kind of going for. So if I do change anything, it'll be more along the lines of, how can I get the player to play a bit differently with these characters, as opposed to, like, muscle through the game or whatever.
Another question that got asked about characters a little bit is whether there are going to be new characters in the game and whether there's any information that you might have on those.
There will be new characters in the game. I confirmed the Mystery Man character, which I think would be pretty damn cool, and definitely fanfare as far as, like, a randomly generated character that you play with, who's it makes it more I think it makes it more exciting to have a character that you have to work around its flaws. It's exactly what I was talking about, except it's a forced situation that's randomly generated. So you can get lucky and get a really good character, or you can roll a really shitty character. But the thing is you need to beat Mom, or Mom's heart, in order to get the tokens to play with this character regardless. So you wouldn't want to just be like, ah, shit, I rolled a really crappy character with shit items, and, like, I don't want to play with it. No, you should, and you will, because that's your coin. Like, you used it up. You might as well just go for it and see if you can get as far as you can. So you can get the rewards for beating XYZ with the Mystery Man. And there will be another character or characters, we will see, but I'm still working on those.
Cool. Bisnap, I don't know if you have any other, like, kind of large scope questions. If you do, feel free to ask them, because what I have left right now is a number of, you know, not to be reductive or derisive to the people who ask them, but relatively minor kind of mechanical questions that'll probably be a little rapid fire. So if you have anything else that's kind of more broad, feel free.
Well, all I can really think of is, like, kind of, are there going to be any items or various things that are referential to the community, like myself or Northernlion in general?
I'm glad you asked it so that I didn't have to.
So I do get that a lot, and so a couple things. It's one of those, if you bring cookies to school, you better have enough cookies for everybody.
Right, yeah.
Right.
So that's number one. It's a dangerous thing to do, because it becomes like, I don't know, it feels icky in a way, and, like, I would rather, if I did add any of that sort of stuff, it feels a little like pandering, or it feels icky in a way, and, like, I mean, you guys know I love you. Like,
I want you to prove it.
I understand. Like, and I even get people where it's like, they get aggressive about it, and they're like, you should really put a Northernlion. If you don't, you're an asshole because this guy's helped you immensely. You owe everything to him. And it's just like,
I don't understand the problem with that.
If that doesn't make me not want to do it more, I don't know what does. But I don't. In the second part is again breaking that fourth wall, and it seems weird because if I don't naturally put it in, then I shouldn't be doing it regardless. Mm-hmm. So it's like a dangerous thing, and it's not a slight to anybody. And I'm here, and I came here because I respect you guys, and I'm thankful. So this is why I'm here, and like I think that's good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I don't disagree at all. I really don't.
I can't speak for any other content creators, but I'm not going to be offended if a Northernlion item doesn't appear in the game. If anything, to a certain extent, it's almost doing me a favor because there are some games with references to me in them, and like 2 or 3 times a day I'll get emails and tweets that are like, whoa, did you know like you're in this game? And it'll be like a screenshot, and I'm like, oh man, you went through a lot of effort to show this to me, but this is like the 100th time I've seen it, so...
Yeah, maybe there'll be stuff in the game that seems like it's referencing specific people enough to appease them. You never know.
I'm just saying, I'm not doing another 640-part series unless maybe... I'll do it even if I'm not a starting character, but I think it should be a prevalent item.
Yeah, I can't... Yeah. It's just, let's call it the Northernlion story, and...
You have my blessing. If you did that, I wouldn't even ask for royalties. Not unreasonable ones.
No, you're a generous guy. You're reasonable. I understand. Yeah.
Okay, some of the more minor questions, not to, again, diminish them, but the more minor and rapid-fire questions that I have. The DR
sounds pretty diminishing.
Well, it is, but it's stuff that's important to...
Just call them the idiot questions.
Right, these are the dumb questions that I kept for filler at the end. Some of these are actually important. Specifically, Spider asked about the possibility of having save slots. I guess like you could have multiple files on the same hard drive.
Yeah. There's a lot of functional, which I'm sure you'll go through, functional questions that are like no-brainers. Like it seems like, duh. Like I don't know how many times like Danielle's like, I want to start over again, and she deletes all of her stuff and then is super discouraged. I can't just play the game that I unlocked all this stuff in, and now the game is back to bare bones again, and that sucks. But yeah, it seems like that's a no-brainer. It seems like something we will add.
Cool. The DRQ on Reddit asked about kind of more robust AV options, so if there's going to be like a more traditional kind of graphics or video configuration screen and more sound options as well.
Yeah, the beauty of working outside of Flash is that you do have those options. I think all standard video game options for the most part will be in this.
FOV slider?
Well, I think what was the controversy? There was some controversy over Spelunky not supporting like a monitor the size of a football field, and and they got shit for it. So might not support that just for because.
Fair enough.
It'll be adequate.
Cool. It's also been asked. This might even be more of a robust topic, but let me find his name because it was a very upvoted comment here. Or maybe it's gone forever. Oh, there we go. Adam H. Wong asked, will rooms be the same size or will they be dynamic in shape?
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. So the thing that we're experimenting now with, or will be, I guess, in the next week or so, is sized rooms. First thing I thought of when we were talking about the remake is doing rooms of different sizes. Mm-hmm. Because it seems very possible to very easily put 2 rooms together or cut the middle out, and then you got one long room. Same goes for like a Tetris type piece, like a 3-way room, or even a block 4-way room, like a really large room. Mm-hmm. Those are all experiments that I want to see and see what works. I think they'll be pretty interesting and change things up a lot. And it'd be cool to just see maybe a scrolling level or something. See what comes with that, and there might be ample things to harvest from this little mechanic edition. I don't know yet because it's not in, but I would like to play around with it. So yes, I will. I hope there will be different size rooms, larger rooms, maybe even smaller rooms, that change it up a lot. I would like the game to be. It's already so random, but it's to the point where I know you guys probably obviously recognize certain rooms and stuff like that, even though there are hundreds of rooms.
Yeah.
If not thousands, actually. But, well, like, how many... Okay, anyway. There will be so many more rooms that I think it'll really trick people and make people forget certain things. Maybe overload the brain enough to make the game feel, like, really organic.
Cool. There was a question, and this might be something, again, a little bit meatier, but you've talked about the existence of a daily challenger that you hope to put in something like Spelunky's Daily Challenge. A question that gets asked a lot, I don't know if a specific asker here, is if you would have some kind of leaderboard system like that, and if so, what the kind of metric for the leaderboard would be, or multiple metrics even, if you wanted to separate it that way.
Yeah, I never thought about a leaderboard because I don't see Isaac as a game that can be measured by metrics. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be kind of lame to force it into time because that's the easiest one. Damage taken, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't, even though it's a really cool thing, I feel like it might be pretty forced for us to come up with some sort of rudimentary way of, like, measuring your success in Isaac. Like, so I'm not too sure about that. It doesn't seem, even though I love it, of course, I love the leaderboards in Spelunky. It kept me playing. Like, I feel like games like Spelunky are like the new arcade games. I've never cared about score before at all until Spelunky. So
yeah,
I do appreciate stuff like that, but I'm not going to force something that just doesn't fit into a game like that. So I don't foresee that happening.
Cool. Yeah, fair enough. So the idea behind the daily challenge is more that, like, you would play it in kind of the community and then you would share your experiences and talk about it later. And because there is like a sub-community around the daily challenges in Spelunky where people like record themselves playing it and they show it off and they talk about it. So it would be more like that.
Yeah, I think it'd be a little more interesting that way. I'm not too sure again exactly. Like, I was thinking more along the lines is almost like a daily seed, like that everybody has and can play and talk about. Not so much of something you can really compete with unless you're, streaming 2 side-by-side runs.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Nothing on the depth. Like, I make the mistake of saying like this, and then people jump to conclusions because they're not in my head and don't know what I'm thinking. It seems to be an ongoing mistake. It's very easy for me to just assume that everybody uses the same logic I do and speaks the same language. It's not actually that way. But I don't know. We'll see. Stuff can happen. It's still early enough to be like, oh, if this works, we can work it. That's
Cool. To segue off of that a little bit, let's go into some standard questions about when can we expect to see some gameplay footage? When is the game looking like it's going to come out? Because I don't know if any kind of formal date has been nailed down. And again, to reiterate, what kind of distribution platforms you can expect to see for this, or at least are being talked about.
Yeah. I want to. It's not in a state yet. I mean, it looks cool. I've been pretty happy with how everything graphically is moving around. But it's not like I want it to look better than like I want the environment to feel more alive. I want it to feel like an improvement, not just a re-envisioning in like Super Nintendo plus pixelated graphics. I don't want it to just be because right now it kind of does. Like I think if at first glance, because I even showed Tommy recently a build and he thought that it was the Flash version. Like, it looks pretty similar. Like, first glance, you'll think that is the kind of the Flash version of the game, except it looks more crisp. Mm-hmm. I want it to look visibly different. Like, I want it to look more like a living environment and have more little details and little animations here and there. And once it has those things, once I feel like it's improved past what the visual standards of Isaac were when it was in Flash, then I think we'll probably tease a few moving pictures, as they say. But as far as when it's coming out, it's coming out next year. Don't know when. We'll have to figure that out. But sooner in the year is the goal. But
cool.
You never know. I mean, this shit. Since it's PlayStation 4, Vita, and Steam, and whatever the hell else Tyrone wants to really try to push. Shit takes time.
Yeah.
I've never worked with a team before. Like, this is all really new to me. Like a large team where I'm telling the different people like what they should do and stuff, and I'm happy with it so far. I feel sometimes awkward telling people how to do things and stuff, and like I said before, like I always make the mistake of people saying something to somebody and just assuming that they know my intentions and what I mean. But I have to be a bit more specific and direct.
Awesome. Bisnap, do you have any questions that you want to ask as we kind of get to the tail end here?
I didn't manage to ask earlier if there will also be user-created challenges. Like, you have the whole challenge menu with all of those. Will there be any that people can make just to have fun things happen?
It's sometimes a lot of extra work. I mean, hey, if Spider's working on it, maybe. It's sometimes hard to make something that's not super alienating to the masses, as far as like a challenge builder. But if it's possible and if it's doable, and I don't see why that couldn't be a reward for Platinum God or something like that.
I like that.
Cool. Well, if that's it, I'm basically out of questions. I think I was just reading through the Reddit thread, and whether we directly attributed the questions to the right people or not, we went through basically everything that was covered, and that makes it pretty robust in my opinion. So I guess I'll just finish off by asking you. We kind of capped off the Q&A that we did in April or so by me teasing one item out of you. So if you have another new item you would be comfortable teasing, or even explicitly saying what it doesn't have to be a one of the marquee or game breaking items or anything like that, but I would be much obliged so I could package this and market it, and how it is.
Let's see. Let me open the item list up. Let's see. Where is it? I didn't get any like jerk off questions. Those are always fun. Like, how come Edmund, how come he's such a fat faggot?
Well, that's why we're here. Just to sort through those and be like, I think he might not have the best intentions in mind with that.
But then how will people ever know why?
I think most of the people who came here are, fairly interested in the game, so I've seen a little bit of riffraff pop up in the chat, and people are just like, wow, that guy's a real asshole. So it's pretty good in self-policing, thankfully.
Well, if anybody wonders, the answer has something to do with semen being high in calorie. Okay, let's go through these things here. What is cool? What is cool?
You can just go down a list if you want to. You can talk about all of them.
Let's see here. I can't talk about that one yet.
See, now you're just, teasing even more. Like, ooh, that's a good one.
But wait, this might be better.
What if it's more vague? What if it's more vague, and if I say something along the lines of, there will be more like collected forms similar to Guppy.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. A lot of people actually suggest that, and they're like, hey, you should try and get that to happen. I'm like, I don't have control over this.
Yeah, I'll throw out a question. You can tell me, just give me a yes or no answer, or tell me to F off, basically.
Okay.
Does it have anything to do with maybe Max's head?
No, because Max's head is no longer Max's head. That's one of the visual changes and just name changes. Max's head was okay. So when I was little, I always wanted to have a dog and name it Max. Okay. That was as far as that goes. I never had that dog, and it was kind of always like whenever I pick it up, I'd be like, I never even fucking had a dog. Like, I don't I don't know. It was like, I think it was the fourth item I made, back before I knew exactly how the game was going to unfold and be. So that will actually be changed to Cricket's Head, which is the name of one of my cats.
Oh,
and so, no, there will not be dog-themed things. I didn't have a dog. Well, I mean, I guess I had a dog for like a week once, but it got taken back to the pound when it shit all over everything for days.
Now I feel like I wasted my question. I really thought I was going to get like a scoop or something in there.
I don't know. I think that's pretty good info.
I mean, you went in and you took a stab at the what it could be, and I said no.
I took a swing at it. It was A wild one, but that's okay. Well, Edmund, it's been a pleasure. Do you have any sites or social media pages you would like us to send people to if they want more information on what you're doing, or you just want to increase your clout score, or they want more information on what's going on with Rebirth specifically?
Yeah, I don't fucking know anymore. I don't think people care or need to care about anything that I have to say or do at this point. The game will eventually come out in the places that you want it to come out, and if you want to hear what I have to say, you'll probably hear this, a pre-recorded message. And here are all you need to know. But yeah, no, I don't. EdmundM.com is my site that I never update, and I'm on Twitter, and all I do on Twitter is get in trouble these days, so I probably won't be on there as much either.
Cool. So Google.com, you just type in whatever you want to find.
Google it. Figure out why I'm gay. That's another question.
Well, you already answered that.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't answer why I was gay, just why I was a fat fag. There's a difference.
Every answer, you're just giving us more questions, really.
It's the way I work. It's my risk-reward factor.
Cool.
The game unfolds.
Well, again, it has been a pleasure, and maybe we'll be able to do one of these closer to the release again. I feel like I end every single one of these by saying that, but one of these days.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Like I got hopefully Megenics will be out before then, and I don't know if it's a game that you'll care about at all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, a lot of the questions that we got were actually about Megenics, but it'd make it Rebirth specific. We can do a Megenics thing for sure, too.
Yeah, it would be fun to have Tommy on here, and we can go off on a tangent about whatever's setting us at the
Christian stance, yeah.
Christian stance all the way.
And again, it's been a pleasure, and thanks to bisnap for joining us as well.
Absolutely.
You can find bisnap stuff over at youtube.com/bisnap. He is an extremely high-level analytical min-max Binding of Isaac Ubermensch, as mentioned at the top of this video. And if I type !thanks, you should be able to get all of his links in there as well. Also, twitter.com/bisnaplp to follow him on Twitter. So thanks to both of you. Again, it's been a whole lot of fun, and thanks to everyone out there for watching. If you're watching on Twitch, make sure to follow the channel to get notified of when we go live in the future. And if you're watching on YouTube and you enjoyed the video, which I'm guessing you did if you made it to the end of it, make sure to click the like button so it helps support the channel. Again, thanks to everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And